Welcome back. Well, a new report by the Australia Institute says that Australia's Emissions Reduction Fund has failed to cut emissions and requires urgent review to avoid wasting billions more of public money. For more, I'm joined by Richie Merzian, who's Director of the Climate and Energy Program at the Institute. Thanks for your time. So let's just go through some of the criticisms in this report. You say that up to 80% of the fund is used for so-called low integrity reductions. What does that mean? What are your examples of low integrity reductions?
Those carbon credits that have been purchased by the government mainly fall into three baskets. They're either avoided deforestation credits, they're credits for trying to grow forests again, or they're for landfill gas. All three methods have huge problems, which means that the credits that are coming out of them, the low integrity credits, don't represent real emissions reductions or are emissions reductions that would have happened anyway and therefore are a waste of money. And that's the problem. If the fund is going to be spending billions of dollars, you want it to buy real emissions reductions, especially since this fund is the main way that the federal government is trying to reduce emissions.
Right, but so if you're talking about forestation, either avoiding chopping down trees or growing trees, how do you prove what the intent of someone was before or after? How do you know that this was the difference or not, paying them this money to get the reductions?
Sure. Well, if you take one method, so the avoided deforestation in New South Wales, our research shows that the rates of deforestation that you'd have to have, the baseline that you'd have to assume if you're going to actually credit these landholders for not reducing emissions is ridiculously high. You wouldn't have enough bulldozers in New South Wales to pretend like deforestation rates were so high as to credit these outfits for actually reducing emissions. And what we've found instead is, despite millions, hundreds of millions being spent on these avoided deforestation credits, deforestation rates are going up in these areas in New South Wales, not down. So obviously something is wrong here. We're not getting the emissions reductions or the avoided emissions reductions that we're paying for as taxpayers.
I mean, whether deforestation is going up or not, though, wouldn't actually be proof in of itself that it's not working. There's a huge demand for timber at the moment. The prices are spiralling. It might just be that some companies are looking to get in on the action.
I mean, these are specific areas that have been outlined by the landholders and commitments made to avoid deforestation in these credits based on permits that have been handed out. And look, this is just one of many methods that the government has put forward and has purchased hundreds of millions of credits from that aren't producing the results that we have. And this is the problem because we know that this is an issue. The former chair of the integrity body, Professor Andrew McIntosh, has come out and said that these methods are failing us. And what we need right now to get to the bottom of it is a review of the methods and the review of the governance that has led us here.
The government did question, though, that Andrew McIntosh, on the one hand, ticked off on all of this, and then after quitting, said it wasn't fit for purpose. So why would he approve it in the first place?
I mean, Professor Andrew McIntosh says he has his regrets in not, sounding the alarm earlier, but the problem has been getting worse in the last couple of years and there seems to be no appetite to review it. If everything is hunky-dory, the federal government should order a review and make sure that that is really the case. I mean, these are hundreds of millions of credits that are being purchased, and what's worse is it's now going on to the private sector to purchase them. You have the head of ASX-listed companies ringing the alarm as well and saying that they don't want to buy these credits. They have issues. You have the chair of the ACCC that's raised issues as well. This is becoming more and more endemic.
Briefly then, it seems as though you're saying deforestation in general, whether it's the growing or avoiding the felling of trees, isn't a great spend. What areas do you think would be a better spend?
We know what works. Investing in renewable energy, investing in electrification of transport, providing large grants to allow industry users to electrify, basically finding ways that we know work right now. Instead, the federal government, for example, created a new method for carbon capture and storage, which will reward fossil fuel producers for opening up new gas fields and trying to bury a little bit of emissions underground, a technology that's failed over and over again. Let's invest in what we know works now instead of trying new methods or backing the old methods that are failing us. That's the real opportunity the federal government has.
But don't we need some new methods as well? Because, sure, eventually if all electricity goes to renewables, that's great. But we're talking about industries that need to, that do emit, the production of cement, for example. You need to find something else to negate that. So isn't searching for new ideas a good thing?
I mean, you're quite right. There is a role for the carbon market, and that's to provide offsets for areas that we know are very difficult to abate, like cement, like agriculture. But that's not what's happening right now. The carbon credits that are being purchased are by fossil fuel producers. Just today in the papers, Woodside was talking about how it's bought enough carbon credits to sort itself out between now and 2030.
Right.
That's not the purpose of the market. It's supposed to be for systematic change.
Got to leave it there, Richie Merzian. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure.